There we go. We're back. Somehow. I don't know how. That was weird. Yeah. Definitely not a great look for me. But yeah. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. I don't know what that was all about. I'm echoing again. I'm echoing again. Somehow I am back. That's interesting. No, first things first. Before I forget, chat, it's been a while, but hey, Zyron here, Axis 0096. How's everyone today? Hopefully doing well, I hope. I hope. Keyword, hope. Oh, Commander Hat. Oh, I see. I have one Commander Hat in the audience. That's awesome. Hi. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. It's been ridiculous. I've wanted to do streaming all week. It's been one thing after another lately. Anyways, let's watch. I'm gonna make commentary throughout this SCL or SEL. So let's get to it. I'm gonna shut my video off and feed off, but we're gonna watch the thing and we're gonna go now.
Not, I swear, if there's one question about night vision on this show, I'm gonna leave. I'm just gonna walk out the door. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live, your weekly discussion of behind-the-scenes Q&A, sometimes where were you born and why did you get into video games questions. Joining us on the show this week, we're just going to jump right into it this week, esteemed members of our FPS improvements team, members of Team NUC. We still haven't name these teams. We're just going to jump into it with some introductions because everybody knows who I am. Unfortunately, I don't need to take up any more time. Zach.
Hello.
How are you doing?
It's me.
Oh,
I'm good. Spectrum's #1 enemy here. Senior game designer, FPS man, guns, AI, creatures, the whole shebang. That's me.
welcome to the show, man.
Look at Mr. Tough Guy here. This is very concerning behavior. I don't want him being my game designer. Yeah.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
We were talking about, you were actually supposed to be on a show once before, and we did. You know, most people don't know that you wouldn't see it in the live show, but there's actually like this huge prep period before we go live, and we did like 40 minutes of prep and making sure going through things, blah blah blah, and then right like just 2-3 minutes before the start of the show, Zach's internet went out, and he disappeared, and he wasn't on the show he was supposed to be on before. But you're here now. It's working.
I am here.
It's all right.
I'm back. Hello. Oh.
Yeah. And you're wearing the shades that protect you from the YouTube comments?
I am. I can't read Twitch chat with these on. They have
awesome
comment blocking abilities. They're very handy.
All right. Pascal, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Hi, my name is Pascal. I'm a gameplay programmer in Frankfurt, and I'm doing programmer stuff like coding and whatever that is.
Right, what is a gameplay?
Most people can't really. Yeah.
No. What does a gameplay programmer do with regards to FPS? Like, are you the one determining left foot goes in front of right foot? What's a programmer?
No, that's for more smarter people. I'm the one that Zach screams at when he wants something in the game. Hey, can we do X? And then I go, probably. Let me have a look, and then I get around, and eventually we get a task added for that, and
So it's that
that's
classic,
how our work flows.
that classic relationship between designer and programmer. Can we do this? No. But can we do this? Maybe. You'll let me know? I'll let you know.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. Zach chimes in once or twice a day. Hey, by the way, I have a query. Can we do this? And then
It's pretty much the Austin Powers thing where you've got to ask them 3 times and eventually
Yeah.
they'll say yes. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That is oh my God, that is the relationship between designer and programmer put perfectly, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Nick, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hello, yes, so I'm Nick. I'm a system designer 3, so I'm on the core gameplay team, which is anything FPS related, but we obviously focus on the features for FPS and Star Citizen. So I work quite closely with Zach. We're kind of like the weapon buddies. So yeah, I work on entity setups. I work on some balancing. I've also just picked up keybinds and everything kind of FPS related. That's kind of me. Yeah.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, Atul. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hello, I am Atul. I'm also a gameplay programmer based in Frankfurt. Lately I've been working on reload improvements, and I wore my favorite T-shirt today.
What does it say? Honk?
Exactly.
Is there an explanation
Amazing.
of that? Honk? Just honk?
Honk, honk. One more? Honk.
Okay.
It's a power move.
German humor.
Yeah, I have. To be fair, Atul is not German. Atul is from Turkey.
It is a power move. Let me do a little submission display for Atul. There you go. There. I submit to your power move. All right. So let's jump into the questions because we've wasted enough time. If you've never seen Star Citizen live before, lucky you. This show is where we take questions from you, the Star Citizen community. We posted a thread up on Spectrum, which is the bespoke communication platform available on robertspaceindustrials.com. We let you submit your questions, vote up which ones that you want to see answered most. Then we let Zach and Nick and Atul and Pascal jump in there, ignore your voting, and pick the questions they wanted to answer most, which is what we got here. We've thrown them up, we mixed them around, and we're just going to jump all around this list here and just jump right into it. Right off the bat, Sniper Glint. I'll just start with Sniper Glint. We snuck that into the show. We didn't talk about it. We just showcased it. We're like, I'm like, people are going to notice. People noticed. Seen a lot of comments. Seen a lot of comments on Spectrum and social media about, you know, Sniper Glint's bullshit and blah blah blah. Well, I used our one swear. Sorry, you don't have any. Talk to us. Talk to us about Sniper Glint. Why is it there? How does it work? Who will see it? How does it play into FOV angles and everything? Talk to me all things Sniper Glint. Go.
So Sniper Glint occurs when a sniper is in aim down sight and they are aiming at you at a specific angle. So imagine if we say that target A is sniper and sniper is here, the target is here. It won't matter necessarily what your angle is. It matters what the sniper's angle is. And we're primarily doing that based upon what you imagine FOV of the player, right? They have like a cone in front of them, and that determines whether you can see the glint or not. And that glint angle is customizable. I've previously said like 11.5, but again, we were spitballing. We were just trying things out. There's a minor glint and then there's a direct glint. So the minor glint is obviously when you're in, let's say it's 10 degrees. And that minor glint is visible for 7.5. But when they're directly on you, we shine that major glint. This is primarily done because of how powerful snipers are in the persistent universe. And if you're injured at all and you're wearing a heavy helmet, they can just one tap you in the head. And the cost of death is very punishing. It's very high, along with obviously, you know, a sniper being a powerful weapon. We still want to enable the fantasy of it, but you've got to have that initial feedback for you know, you're about to get, you know, they're lining up a shot, they're doing things, and to obviously, you know, there's a lot of gameplay implications there with how that looks, how that feels. I've seen a lot of people talking about a lot of suggestions, and a lot of them were very post-fire oriented. So we want some pre-fire orientated warning that this is going off and occurring, and hey, you should be careful. We're doing some other things as well with regards to snipers, with removing auto zeroing off all scopes, and we're increasing the zeroing increments, so you have to focus more on landing your shot. And
Sorry about that, chat.
So some follow-ups on just the things you said, and then Nick and Atali, I want you to jump in here. So you mentioned customizable. You mean you can customize it? We can customize it, not for the player.
We can customize it. So each scopes, they may, and different scopes may have different FOVs and things like that to allow well, not customization, but differentiation between manufacturer. So some might have different modifiers on different glint angles, and you can pick the one that is okay. Cool. This is how I'm going to play my sniper.
And then when you mention, obviously death is punishing. It's punishing now because all the time it takes to get back into the fight and then like this. This gets more punishing when you consider death of a spaceman and all those things that we've talked about. As those things, more of those facets come online, finding ways to help people stay alive in these situations becomes more important. So Sniper Glint plays into that. One of the questions in the chat was instantly, how does this work at night?
There is. Oh, Nick, do you want to jump on this one? Or shall I
No,
take it?
go for it, mate. Go for it.
Okay, so the regardless of lighting conditions, the glint is there, and that is because of how powerful these weapons are and how these things are needed to be in to essentially say, hey, there is this incredibly powerful weapon aiming on you. You have time to react if necessary. They have to line up their shot on you, and so on and so forth. So it is visible.
To me, it kind of sounds like a handicap, but we'll see how.
If anyone has any good alternatives they'd like to suggest, please give feedback. We're more than open to hear it. But this is a very gameplay orientated thing.
Zach and I, we had a playtest the other day with our lead Torsten, not Nuck Layman, and I think I really want players just to have a go with it because I think it's really, it really adds to gameplay, especially when we want to make snipers really powerful, especially these 50 cal snipers like the P6LR. We really want them to be beneficial and really reward that gameplay, but at the same time, it needs some sort of balance. It needs some sort of counter to that. So I think, especially with the angles that Zach mentioned, I think at first, it's a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. But once you give it a go, I think like the crosshair we found at first, when we were talking about the crosshair, we were like, how are we going to implement it? And then after a while, after you've been using it, you're like, actually, this feels great. And we can't imagine not using it now. So
yeah. The key thing is when you look at people, especially in places like Jumptown, where there's a lot of, it's very dark, it's very hard to see things, and you have a sniper. And at the moment, currently, we don't obviously have the most fantastic feedback for post-shot for the snipers. For example, we don't have the really obvious traitors, we don't have the really obvious muzzle flash, and the audio doesn't go far enough and things like that. So we are aware of those things. Yeah. But it's very hard to see the sniper at Jumptown, and it just leads to this kind of degenerate play style where it's like someone is not engaging with Jumptown, right? They're there to just sit and be a sniper. They're not necessarily they're not contesting Jumptown. They're not doing it for their team. And there's a couple of examples of this, and it's healthy for the game.
Yeah. So CIG says snipers are degenerate gameplay. Send your letters
so
to
they
Zach
claim.
We'll
Yeah. I one more thing I will add on this as well. I've seen some comparisons to other games and looking at glint and stuff. Our glint is a lot smaller. Our glint is a lot less obvious. And obviously we only showed one distance, but you'll see that the glint is not like the light of God itself is looking at you.
Now, people have seen 1.5 seconds of it, and in one situation, and the imagination's going wild with it. Like all things, try it, test it, feedback, try it, test it, feedback, we change, try it, test it, feedback, we change. It'll be dialed in like anything else. And if you didn't get the thing about the degenerate thing, I'm joking at Zach's expense because of the word he used. I will say, there's someone in the chat named Kakashi. Kakashi said, as soon as you add Sniper Glint, everyone will play quick scoping snipers that run and parkour around. Do you agree
Well,
with that? Do you disagree with
No,
that?
because we're increasing sniper ADS time as well. So snipers will have a longer ADS time because if you've played them against them in close quarters at the moment, they're very oppressive. So they're also going to have like bigger hip fire and things like that. So, but they're also going to have much more higher damaging profiles than they currently have. Like the fall off on them is very strong and things like that. So leaning into the power fantasy elements of the sniper while making sure that, hey, I'm playing Star Citizen, I don't expect to die to some guy who's running around with a sniper rifle because that's not the FPS experience
Yeah.
that we really feel.
Yeah, and you don't need ADS if you're no scoping. So it's all if you're trying to quick scope, there's where the ADS is. If you're just no scoping, it doesn't affect you, and the glint will
We
be.
adjusted no scoping as well a little bit, like with the whole recoil thing that we added with this FPS improvements, the snipers got their recoil pass as well, I think. Obviously, this is still work in progress, but spray and recoil no scope can be different from spray and recoil in ADS. So when you're not ADSing, no scoping can be adjusted by increasing spread or increasing the recoil there to make it harder to hit.
Yeah,
We typically don't have spread on our weapons when you ADS, so there's very few exceptions. But yeah,
I think the moral in all of this is simply try it, keep trying it, give us feedback, keep giving us feedback. These guys keep reading the feedback. We talked to the player experience team and such last week and stuff. It's a cycle. It's a cycle of this. The only thing that doesn't help is doom and gloom. Try it, feedback, process the feedback, make changes over and over again until we get to some place where we find consensus. It's never going to make everybody happy. Nothing's ever going to make everybody happy, but it's about finding consensus, and we'll find the consensus. Let's jump into more of these questions because we're already 1/4 of the way through the show and we've done one question. Do any of these changes to scopes fix the issue of armor clipping into the sights, or is that simply an armor issue?
We are investigating this. It is sadly an armor issue. When we go into ADS, then our armor clips in due to animation because we're not bringing the weapon to our eyes. We're looking into that.
I will say this is a valid question because recently playing the missions with Operation Overdrive Initiative, I've had issues with heavy armor clipping, and it's hard for me to scope in enemies with targeting stuff due to the heavy bulk of certain armors and other things. It's just, yeah, it's this is a good question. Here we go.
That, and we're planning on releasing for 323 a temporary fix for this. It's not final yet. We're looking into other options to make it a permanent good solution, because the current solution has a few not so pretty things about, or a few issues. In the future there will be the perfect no clipping. Hopefully I will look into that later down.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure.
I
I'm pretty
will-
sure there are clipping occasions even when we're not wearing armor, though.
Yes,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
what we've done is we've basically taken what we call like the near eye renderer or something. I'm not I'm not a graphics programmer, but essentially
Near plane.
imagine near plane. So imagine if like this is the end of your gun, right? We can basically clip the end of this gun off, and you only see the clipping at the end of the gun off if you're in high high FOV and while you're going out. But the level of improvement this has is incredibly drastic. So right now we're really struggling to have it block views on sniper rifles, for example, or assault rifles with a ×4. The improvement is monumental, and the patch after 323, we've hopefully got something that is, a lot nicer and a lot smoother than that. Obviously, TBD.
Okay. Are there plans for more grenade types?
Wanted to know this for a while.
Yes, we have a lot of grenade types already prototyped some of them, or implemented some of them for Squadron. The basic FPS types or FPS grenade types that smokes, flashes and whatnot. And from there on, we're gonna move on to the more sci-fi things. and other FPS devices as well.
Don, Go ahead.
Nick, do you want to give some of the examples that we've kind of that we've been cooking up and we can talk about?
Do you mean the sci-fi ones, or do you mean just the standard?
I'd say the more standard contemporary ones.
Yeah, so obviously we've got we've got the flash stun and frag, obviously like Pascal mentioned, but the flash grenades or even the stun grenade, concussion grenade, we're kind of playing around with different ideas of how exactly we want to do it for Squadron. Obviously with PvP as well, there's kind of you got to be careful with balancing and stuff like that. But we have played around with the idea of the angles of where it goes off. So obviously if your flash goes off directly in front of your face, how long that would have that effect on the screen, whereas opposed to if it just happens to in your peripheral vision to your right hand side, how long that would have an effect, and then after effects. And we're obviously working with that. We've got a really great health system like the BDL system in our game, and we looked at some of the effects that we could have produced on the eyes of the after effects of being stunned and how that all plays into it as well. And again, like smoke grenades, again, it's so different between PvE and PvP. How long does the smoke last for performance wise? So we're obviously looking into all the different factors of what happens bringing something from a single player experience into a multiplayer experience. But they're not gonna, what's the word? Reinvent the wheel necessarily. They're going to be kind of what you expect for those classic items, but then like Pascal mentioned, we are going to start introducing some more sci-fi elements, things I think like area of denial kind of types of devices as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
Don Steeler Gaming in the chat asked, will grenades have glint?
They will make a light, the flashbang especially, but
It's like a
not
big
sure if
glare.
you count this as glint. If you look really close into the scope, it might flashbang you. But
All right. You mentioned the health system. The next question we got here. Does CIG have any plans to replace things like percentage of health with more immersive vitals, things like blood pressure and heart rate, so players might feel more immersed in the experience of Star Citizen?
So in terms of the overall health meter, that's the current goal at this time, but we are doing some things related around medical gameplay at the moment. For example, with injuries, we're doing a current balance pass to make them more of kind of like, a story of combat that you've been through. At the moment, they're a bit too heavily RNG reliant than I like. You can sometimes enter a bunker and walk out with, the worst injuries, and sometimes walk out with like none at all. It's not really you look at your character, it's not really the story of your character that's going through. But there's also some things we're working on to kind of add to medical gameplay. So a big thing we've been talking about is the pre-down state, where we want to move away from reviving people with the general med pens and have specific pens to revive people with. So the pre-down state is also very handy because imagine if like as soon as your health hits 0, you can essentially focus on crawling into safer space to be able to be revived at the moment, because if someone goes down, the majority of the time people are just tractor beaming people, their corpses into cover, and it obviously it looks a bit wacky. So the pre-down state is quite nice, and increasing the BDL costs for being revived and getting back up and things like that. The pre-down will be a very limited window of time as well, so it's not like see people crawling on the ground for like 2 minutes sort of thing.
Right. And there's we'll talk about it in a couple weeks on ISC, but there's a new health app being added to mobiGlas in 3.23 that'll give you a more detailed stuff like that. It's still being developed past 3.23, but you'll see more health-related information and stuff being made available to players, which might help with that sense of immersion there. Oh, that's a question about night vision. I'm skipping that. When it comes to ammo repooling, are you defining different types of ammo across different weapons? Rifle, pistol, sniper, shotgun, etc. Or will ammo pools be bespoke to each weapon magazine?
I can chime in. So it will be bespoke to each weapon's ammo. So for example, when you're repooling a P-Force ammunition, the ammunition that belongs to other weapons will not be touched. So it's for that weapon only. A couple of things to add here is like right now in the current iteration, you will be able to repool only if you actually have that weapon either in your hand or in your back. So you saw the damage animation in the ISC, so you have the weapon in your hand. So if you have it in your back, you will automatically unholster it. And if you don't have that weapon, you won't be able to repull. And so that's the situation. The current iteration, we'll see where we go from there. So please give us your feedback when you get your hands on it. One more point, actually something that we didn't show in ISC, but will be included in 323, is that you will be able to trigger repulling. In the inventory UI, when you right-click to a magazine, you see the context menu. You will see the repull option there. And when you click that, the repull, inventory UI will close, and then it will trigger the regular damage animation. And then similar goes with loot UI as well. Like when you're in the loot UI, and then when you hover over the weapon and press a hotkey, in the same way it will trigger repulling. So you will be able to trigger from the menus as well.
There's a question here as a follow-up to this, saying that all the examples of mag repooling that we were able to show in ISC were ballistic ammo, and asking whether that works on laser stuff. Before you get to the answer, I want to take the opportunity to comment a little bit about why you see certain things in ISC and why you don't. The guys, who I'm going to shout here because they deserve it every week, Will, Dave, and Alex, who make all the footage for ISC each and every week, they work in a world. If you consider Alpha that you guys play, and it works this well from time to time. It's still a pre-release build. Things work and has this little buggy, and then underneath that there's PTU, where fewer things work and there are more bugs and whatever. Then there's Evocati, where even fewer things work and there are even more bugs, and we generally NDA it and stuff like that. They work even before that. So the place where they work, every frustration you ever have gets visited on them about 20 times each and every week, and yet they persevere and they make some of the best damn stuff. I mean, ISC is better today than it's been at any time in its history, and that's because of Will, Dave, and Alex and the struggles that they're going through. They're currently struggling right now with the new cargo stuff and the new hangar stuff right now. Like literally this minute they're in there doing that right now because it's so early. So we don't always get to show every single aspect that you might expect because we're working so early in the pipeline. So with that said, we weren't able to show laser repooling, but you can repool laser stuff. How does that work?
Yes. It's actually going to work the same way. So in the current iteration, they're all max, they're all subject to repooling, except for tools. So multi-tool and dedicated salvage tool at this point in time. So all are the same. We have the mid-term to long-term idea that to toy with, which revolves around differentiating energy weapons from ballistic weapons by giving energy weapons some automatic ammo regeneration. That's kind of similar to energy weapons, but that's for the future. So yeah, for the time being, they will repool all the same.
Yeah, I'll just add, you right, Jared. I think they did a fantastic job because we'd shot our bits earlier on, and then we had a chat with them, and they were just amazing at being able to capture what we were kind of talking about. Because I felt like I was waffling on. I was like, they got exactly what I was talking about. But yeah, so basically, obviously, for right now, for 323, obviously, it's much more easier for balancing and stuff to make sure that both ammo types will repool. But as Atil mentioned, yeah, we are talking about obviously when armor suits get the resource network, potentially we're looking into the idea of the ammo suits being able to trickle charge, because at the end of the day, the energy weapons are using batteries, right? So they don't have a physical capacity. And so the idea is that they might be able to slowly charge up. So there's obviously pros and cons to both, and that's how we are going to eventually differentiate between ballistic. You know, ballistic may do more damage, heavy hitting, but obviously it's limited by its capacity, right? And it can you need to obviously reload and run out of bullets and repool, whereas laser, for example, doesn't have a drop off, so it can travel much further. But then obviously we've got to think about overheating, and we've got to think about if it does overheat, but it also can just then recharge. You don't need to worry about running out of ammo per se. So yeah, that's kind of how currently right now it's the same, but eventually we are looking at the ways we can differentiate the two different ammo types.
Do the other FPS items that we were talking about, like the multi-tool and everything, are there thoughts about giving them batteries and stuff as well at some point?
The Grin multi-tool?
Yeah.
Was that so?
Or just
Yeah,
any
so
of these other things that aren't strictly FPS weapons, but they're obviously energy based.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're open to ideas of everything that can be battery-wise. Absolutely, could be charged up. Yeah.
Just a chat right now is imagining. I think Vlad said something about bringing a car battery to replenish weapons. Just somebody running around with a giant battery. Plug in.
Okay. We're open to ideas.
Be an interesting position on the combat field. Just the guy with all the recharge cables.
It could be a profession,
While we're talking about reloading, repooling stuff, will there be some way to either cancel or completely prevent reloading since it's getting updated?
Reloading?
Yes.
Breaking
Okay,
out.
Yeah.
Yes. So the answer is yes. You will be able to cancel reloading and repulling process by probably sprinting and jumping. So like there's a list of actions which we can cancel repulling with, or we cannot do while repulling. So we already have the system, but I don't have a full list of actions in mind right now. But you will certainly be able to cancel that rummage animation.
Can you cancel other people reloading?
If you kill them, death is the ultimate cancel.
That's a bit of a
Or
cheat.
knock them
Zach.
over, right?
Well, of
That's what
course.
I'm looking for. Can you knock them over and it cancels their reload?
Well, yeah, force reactions
That's the
will
intention,
throw you
yeah.
out. Yeah, if someone throws a grenade and you go flying, you're not going to be able to rummage through your backpack.
And if somebody's in the middle of reloading and I can unarmed combat, punch them, will that interrupt maybe?
Depends how hard you punch them.
Well,
You knock them out, yeah.
well, it's up to, I want a full-on WWE clothesline, but Steve Bender keeps shining me on. But just think about it, WWE clothesline.
Yeah, but Zach and I have obviously spent a lot of time looking at, we've called it like an actions matrix, basically. And we've basically looked at everything, jumping, crouching, proning, what actions are you doing whilst you're doing that, So we're definitely working through it. It's a big list. Because
Yeah.
if you try and think of every single action you're doing, and then it's like, do I reload? Do I want to heal? Do I want to holster? So it's a big list to get through, but we're working with, obviously, engineers to basically decide exactly kind of the game that we want to make and where we want to give freedom to the player, and then what actions are more punishable. Like if you've committed to that, then you've got to finish the animation and so forth.
Yeah, for example, like something with the action matrix work that we talk about, an example could be like if you med pen, right? Obviously, it's very quick now. But if we were to make that med pen process longer in the future, you might not be able to sprint out of that. You have to commit to it, sort of thing. So on the design side, we can kind of pick and choose where that goes. It goes a long way to making the game feel less clunky when you have more like autonomy and control over your character, and the movement and the feel of that is, it's very important. It's where the word clunk comes from, right? It's an indescribable feeling of like, oh, this feels janky, this feels clunk. It typically comes from like actions not working as you'd expect.
That's great. We're going to stay on the repooling. I got caught. Racuna Nangrata in chat says, Zach is really unprofessional. How do you feel about that, Zach?
Yeah. Yes, that is my roots. I will say, I'm from a working class background in England, so everyone you see in the game industry is, usually a bit more polished and nicer. But I don't
Not
have that
everyone.
same attitude.
Look,
Not
nobody looks at
everyone,
me
no.
and says that guy's professional. Been
If
doing
you
this
want
for
to talk about professional, you should see his desk at work. It's horrific.
Oh, don't! It's terrible. It's got Warhammer figures. It's got Magic the Gathering decks, Yu-Gi-Oh decks. There's some Heinz barbecue sauce on here.
Some leftover cake, cans.
There's a shotgun. There's Cheetos that Todd Pappy gave me.
Anything
Yeah.
with anyone with OCD, like me, I just can't sit next to him. But unfortunately, I'm forced next to him.
No.
We have
My
the
desk
most
is super clean.
beautiful dichotomy, like, because we
Yeah.
sit right next to each other, and I've got like just this minefield, and Nick has this lovely like diorama of figures and so on and so forth. Yeah, I've got to bring all the cool stuff. Oh, it's not in focus. Yeah.
Nice.
On here though.
Ugh. Go Tau for life. All right.
Wow.
Tau. Tau is
Wow,
really
that's
uncommon.
rogue. Jared, you do
Yeah.
not seem like a Tau guy.
Yeah, I
You
No.
seem
don't, I
like an
don't think.
orc guy.
Yeah.
I like
think.
robots.
Tau,
I
Tau
like
doesn't
robots.
fit into the aesthetic of 40k Tau.
That's why I like
Jared.
it. They stick out like a sore thumb. It's like Apple showed up and was just like, "Hey, Warhammer, we're here." I like really how upsetting it makes everybody else. So,
The grades are good.
all right, back to reloading. Question from the chat. NoX 4085 asks if there's been any thought about large weapons that may actually need a friend to reload.
It's a
That
cool
that is
idea.
that. Yeah, I mean, who hasn't played Helldivers at the minute? But yeah, not on our radar at the minute. But you know, that's what we have ships for, right? The good team gameplay. But yeah, not on our radar. No, nothing to comment on for now.
Okay. Can we also pull magazines from our backpacks and equip them to the suit item ports instead of reloading my currently held weapon so that I can stock up my suit item ports?
In the current iteration, no. So repulling process will reload your weapon. However, to quickly stock up your suit item ports, you can just open up Loot UI, and then with a single like a mouse click, you can like move your backpack max to your suit. Very easy. It's going to take a second. So it can be done easily, but not automatically.
Okay. So let's move on. We got some stuff for Dynamic Crosshair here. So Dynamic Crosshair is another one of the new features that are coming online with Alpha 3.23. This, basically, depending on the type of combat helmet that you wear, some will be able to provide you, a little virtual cursor that aligns with where your gun is going. I mean, I first saw this feature in, I think, Blue Thunder back in 1982 is where I first saw it. So, I was like, when it showed up here, I was like, oh, it's Blue Thunder. I'm sure some people have better references than that, but I'm old and dumb. That's mine. This question says, will we have any reason to use laser attachments on our weapons with the new Dynamic Crosshair?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So go
Go
on,
ahead.
Pascal, you take this.
Me. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously, there's other weapons which you might not want to wear a combat helmet, or other situations where you might not want to wear a combat helmet. Like we have these environmental suits, and in these scenarios, you might want to wear a weapon or a tool and equip a laser pointer to it to know where you're aiming at. Or you have further down the line with different armor types, different armors equipped like a medical helmet or whatever. Not sure what's the design for all of these armor types. Nick can go into detail about this. But there are definitely situations in our game, and we will create even more situations along the line where the laser pointer will still be necessary or useful.
Yeah, I think like I said in the ISC, this is kind of like the start of our branching off into the archetypes for armors. So, as Pascal mentioned, we do have different ideas. We're still playing with ideas. Nothing's concrete right now, but we're playing with ideas. And Rich talked about this in 2019 at CitizenCon on stage about, like, for example, a medic gameplay. What would that visor look like? Would they see the vital signs of their teammates, for example? Or if you're a miner, if for example, you're just wearing a combat helmet and you do a scan, maybe it'll just tell you the type of rock it is. But if you're wearing a mining helmet, maybe the visor will give you extra details like the clarity of the material or how efficient the rock will be to break down and stuff like that. So, or even like say, for example, like a specialist, like if you're pinging as a specialist, as a bounty hunter, maybe you get to ping further and get a little bit more of a head start on who you're trying to track. So, for example, I don't think we touched on this in the ISC, but we also looked at like the HUD, for example, with backpack reloading. Like with the combat helmets, obviously it gives you the information of the magazines on your suit, and the backpack, we may actually lose that information when you use, say, for example, the environment suit. So to answer your question, I think the laser sight still has a very viable path, because if you are doing a profession, let's say you want to be a miner or you want to be salvaging or whatever, obviously we're in a PvP environment.
Right.
You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's if you still want that freedom of knowing where your barrel is exactly pointing, you getting jumped by an enemy team or whoever, then it still has that choice when you're outside of a combat helmet scenario.
Or you've simply just given yourself a brand new bouffant hair in the character customizer and like, I'm not putting a helmet
Oh,
on
exactly.
this. Laser sight.
Exactly, right?
Laser sight,
gotta show off
so I
all-
could show.
Show off all that hard work, right? You're not going to put 50 hours in the character customizer for a helmet, right? So
It's all about choices. All right. Will shooting specific gear destroy the item, or, for example, in the case of grenades, make them explode in the future?
So again, we've spent a lot of time kind of working out exactly how we want damage to apply. Obviously, a few years ago, I wrote the design for wearing dirt and everything that comes with it, and overheating, and we've kind of implemented that into Squadron, and with obviously thinking with the PU in mind as well. We really are quite keen on the idea of an explosion happening to the specific area that you've been hit. So, for example, if a grenade does go off right by your weapon, then the level of wear and the damage applied to that weapon will skyrocket, obviously, as it's gone off right next to it. And the same can be applied for dirt. So, for example, if you're let's say you're in a swampy environment and you walk through, if you then sprint through, the amount of dirt that's then applied to that specific area, like your legs, for example, that will then skyrocket through. Same as if you were crawling through the mud, your level of dirt will cake your whole armor in mud, and the same for obviously damage on items as well. So yes, it will damage certain items, but we are still obviously playing around with how much of a factor that will play into the overall.
And oh, do you have some? Okay. And with things like dynamic crosshair, specifically, just before we completely move on for this, there's a question in here about will players have the option to modify the dynamic crosshair, either in size, shape, color, whatever?
Since IC, we actually did a few adjustments already to the crosshair, and we are now looking for adding maybe an opacity slider or something like that, so you can at least say, oh, I don't want it fully visible or just half visible, so it doesn't really obscure my vision. And later down the line, let's see what the future brings, right? If we find the time, I would like to do it, but maybe we have other things that need more fixing or more help from our side. So
yeah, it's always a matter of priorities. It's
exactly.
not that we don't want to do it. It's just that sometimes there are other things that are deemed more important or pressing at any given moment, and then those priorities change, which is why sometimes, we can say that this thing is next, and then it ends up not being next and whatnot. The priorities change. When you say that you've begun working since ISC on the opacity stuff, those are technical explorations and stuff, and that's not you saying these are guaranteed to be in 323.
Let's see what the future brings.
That's what I'm saying.
But,
okay. I just want to be clear. We just started looking into this again. It doesn't mean that's one of those things where that's one of those things. It's all this season here. Since we came back, we've been talking about all these tremendous things that are on the roadmap for 323. All these things that are being targeted for 323. There is still a go no go process, and if it comes to the point where does dynamic crosshair go in? Well, we don't have the opacity slider. We're not gonna. That's not the thing that's going to stop it from being a go. So there's always these choices that kind of have. So it's definitely something we're exploring. It's definitely something we want to work at. There's just no guarantee that opacity slider you just mentioned will be a 323 thing. Just something down the line we're looking into. I just want to be real clear. Set expectations. Dynamic crosshair, though, I think that's working really nice. Our guys had a lot of fun with it when they were doing the stuff for ISC, and I don't think we have to worry about that not being a 323.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Like when I first implemented this, obviously I liked it, but nowadays every time I don't have a combat visor on, I feel kind of something's missing, and I really enjoy it. I hope you guys will enjoy it too.
Yep.
It's a really great thing.
Sea Turtle Man in the chat says, "What the hell is a go no go?" I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but it's a good question that I think deserves to be reiterated every once in a while. We develop all of these features in silos. This team working on this, and this team working on this, and this team working on this, and this team working on this. And those all come with their own struggles, their own bugs, their own things that, oh, we tried to get this to work and we just never found it. Or we got it to work and then we found out it wasn't fun. So we want to do it differently and stuff like this. Then when you start to combine them all in a bigger patch, you find a whole new series of bugs, of different interactions of, oh, this worked great on its own and this worked great on its own, but when you put it together, we got two piles of butt. So we need to do more work and more adjustment and stuff, and that's where the go, no-go process goes. It allows us to look at these things and determine whether they're ready for prime time, whether they should go into the patch or whether they should not go into patch. Very few things generally fail a go, no-go. I think the last one we talked about was the last Xi'an ship that was supposed to be on a patch, and it was like, no, it failed to go, no-go. Nobody liked the cockpit. It wasn't a good experience, and they held it back and stuff. There's a couple other examples like that, but for the most part, that's what the go, no-go is. It's how we prevent things from, how we attempt to prevent things from causing more trouble than they're worth. Do we always succeed? No, but having the process and trying is better than not having the process at all. So that's what a go, no-go is, and that process happens much closer to the release of the patch.
Sometimes they're really beneficial as well, because you'll get a point of view from someone, you know, complete different department, like you mentioned, that has brought something up and you thought, actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And then it leads you on down another path. So it's very, very important that we do these.
And then you'll get the other end of that, where, for example, where we talked about optic zoom, which was on the inner side of sites, but then we had issues with upscaling. So we've had to take out the inner optic zoom on the optics, which was shown off at CitizenCon, because it just doesn't work with upscaling. So it's like, you know, like Jared was saying, when you work on a bunch of different stuff and all of a sudden it comes together, you're like, oh no.
And as for Shizor, I'm saying, it says, wait, where does the go, no-go, no-go? Right to my ulcer. All right.
Quickly to adding on that inner zoom thing that Zach mentioned, we're still trying to get this back in because we like the look of it, right? And the graphics guys are currently looking into solutions to that problem to give you that zoom effect on that actual scope. For now, for 323, it's probably not going to happen. Let's see what they can come up with.
Okay. I like this question. We've talked about, we've been talking about different FPS gadgets and things since the ye old days of Star Marine when it was being developed by Ilphonic back in 2015. Is there a possibility we could see ballistic shields in the future, maybe as shipboarding becomes more important?
Yes, there is a possibility. I actually worked on the ballistic shield. We have it for Squadron. We are not sure when we bring this to the PU, but it's there. And let's see when this will spill over.
Seriously, ballistic shield?
Yes. Yes.
Let me tell you as well, it's not as straightforward as it sounds, because obviously in our universe,
Don't take this away from me,
Nick. It's, yeah, I really hope we can get it into the PU soon, because it's very cool. But let me just tell you, it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough to get in the technical difficulties behind that, getting it working like we intended to work. But now we got it somewhat. And yeah, let's see when it spills over.
Well,
it will be great.
Yeah. Well,
I think me and you, Pascal, will push for it in, shall we? See what we can do.
Well, I'm just saying.
Let's see.
I'm just saying. Johnny Jasivius, JJ himself, plays in one of my D&D campaigns, and he's an orc who double wields shields and just runs around with two shields, bashing people and stuff. So if you need someone to sign off, talk to JJ. Just tell him I sent you.
Okay.
Let's see. In ISC, when zooming in with the scopes, the whole screen outside of the scope zoomed in as well. I do understand a lot of things shown in ISC are work in progress, but not quite finished yet. Will this be correct? But will this be corrected so that only the image inside the scope is zoomed in?
So this is a technical limitation, basically. So a lot of games, what they do is they have a separate render layer for the weapons, which is obviously why we go to, when you go to a corner or something, holding a gun out, we do that because the gun would clip through otherwise. So it is a technical limitation currently, but we are working on alleviating that. We've seen a lot of feedback in regards to like, hey, if you blur the outside, it's more believable to me. So it's something we are working on. So the outside of the scopes will be blurred to, kind of trick your brain almost to not see behind the curtain.
That's good to
we do
hear.
something called the universal rig, where it's first person is equivalent to third person. So what you get is what you see, and obviously that has some drawbacks. So in the instance, how we render things, how the universal rig is set up, and so on and so forth.
Next question. Sniper Scope Glint is my absolute favorite thing in every video game I've ever played. I can't wait until it's added into Alpha 3.23. Can I also hope to obtain, equip, and use advanced binoculars for scouting purposes, of course, also with a glint?
So binoculars is something that has come up a lot in discussions recently, and it's one of those things that it's on the list of gadgets. So it's one of those things where it's like we said, hey, people really want this. They feel very strongly about this. So binoculars are on the list of gadgets. It's not in the immediate future, but it is on the list for development.
Okay. We can get some more of these, more of these in here. What ammo variants have you been looking at, if any? Examples they give here are tracer, incendiary, etc.
Yeah, I can take this. So obviously we've kind of for Star Citizen right now we've kind of covered a lot of. We're quite happy with what we've covered so far. So we have some nice burst weapons, and we have obviously some powerful snipers and whatnot. But we have obviously with energy, kind of treat it as like an umbrella term for that ammo type. So under that umbrella, we have lots of plans. So obviously, the players will have seen laser, but we also have plasma, which is like obviously on the corner. So currently, Attil's done some really good work with damage over time with plasma. So that burning effect of once you've been hit, maybe a certain few seconds after that, you've got that sizzling burning effect that you've been hit by plasma. We also want plasma to be different than laser in terms of like how volatile it is. Maybe it overheats a lot faster. So just certain different factors like that. Then obviously discussing all the time, we're throwing ideas around. We've talked a lot about tachyon, like the idea that faster than light ammo, but obviously with balancing, we don't want it to be necessarily hit scan because that can cause a whole lot of issues. But then we've talked about neutron. What does that mean for FPS? Does it become more powerful the further it travels? And then obviously at CitizenCon, we showed the Vault weapons. So we are a really exciting opportunity right now because we kind of feel like we've covered a lot of the standard FPS, what you'd expect. And now this is kind of where we can really branch off and be a bit more sci-fi and really introduce some really unique mechanics, and that can really differentiate gameplay and really make each energy type really stand out from one another and really create that difference. So yeah, some exciting things hopefully on the way soon.
It's going to get sci-fi up in here, which is nice.
Yeah.
Wonko the Sane in the chat says tachyon weapons would hit before you fired them. Would probably help Captain Burks.
Yeah, fast and light, yeah. So
I don't know why I picked on Burks. He's just the name that pops up. This is an oldie, but a goodie. Will it be possible to equip weapons with civilian clothes?
Yeah, hopefully. It's something we're currently working on. I don't want to definitely say yes or no. It's something we're definitely interested in. I actually had a meeting last week with Tech Anims and Character Art about the possibility of what we do, because obviously, as most players will know, that we spend a majority of time in armor, and we really want to utilize our clothing sets. So it's definitely something we're interested in, and it's something we're trying to figure out how we would go about it.
Yeah, and to clarify this, there are some weapons you can use with civilian clothes. We're talking about the ability to stow them and stuff like that.
Being able to holster on your back.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is obviously, we have such a high attention to detail, so we don't want clipping. We don't want it to just completely break the asset, essentially. So, and obviously we have a lot of legacy clothing, and we're also introducing like a new clothing style, and it's just basically kind of working with different departments to see okay, what is absolute no-go? What works? Like, you know, different ideas. Would it have necessarily like a magnetic plate would attach? Would it attach like via a holster? All these different ideas are being thrown around because it is something that we are quite passionate about getting into the PU. So
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah, even if it's like an equipable holster, just something you can add to your your pants or your trousers that gives you the hard point to stow the gun would
yeah,
be cool.
exactly.
Yeah. Is the plan? We haven't talked a lot about recoil. Let's find a recoil one. Is the plan to make weapons generally follow recoil patterns like the 3221? Like the 3221 C54, lots of recoil but low or no bloom. This would be cool. That part's not a question. That's just a statement.
So in regards to this, there's kind of been some confusion because obviously we shipped a lot of procedural recoil in 322. So there are some improvements coming to the recoil system in general. So for example, let me answer the initial question first. So each weapon does have a recoil pattern. There are minor amounts of variation on the recoil pattern, as it help you don't want the weapon feeling the same every single time you fire. But each weapon does have a unique recoil pattern. So you imagine something whether it's a Castic Arms weapon is more unwieldy, there's a bit more noise, it's more horizontal, where something bearing is more traditional, very vertical with less firepower than Castic Arms. So what we've done for 323 is we've refined these recoil patterns and made them what general like visual recoil and actual recoil is a bit smoother than previously in 322. Not to any kind of noticeable from a very noticeable. You're not going to get very static and boring weapons, but it's in the sense of helping firing at range. Because if you try use thing like the bearing at like 40, 50 meter engagement ranges, you can typically struggle, and it's not the gameplay we want with the scope and the expanse of our world. So it will help you basically take these fights. Other things as well, just off the cuff, like looking at magazine sizes, especially damage profiles in regards to damage fall off, projectile speeds. So overall, making the kind of on the ground PU, you're contesting Jump Town, you're contesting Ghost Hollow, far more viable with an assault rifle, as it should be.
All right. Yeah, it was. We struggled with that in the edit because some of the recoil changes have already been out there in 322 and some weren't, and making sure that got communicated but still demonstrated. Strathholm, that looks like it's in the chat, has a simple question: slide mechanic.
Slide.
Yeah, they talked about slide at a CitizenCon, but we haven't seen any mention of that with 323 and stuff. Is that still intended? Is that back of the drawing board? Can you tell us anything about sliding?
Yeah, so sliding won't be in 323, but in general, I've seen a lot of causing concern around this potentially being very arcadey, and obviously we don't want that to be the case. It's primarily a thing that is used to get into cover. For example, in our game, when we talk about what is a slide, it has a high stamina cost. You can't fire whilst you're going into the slide. You can't ADS while going into the slide. It's basically a full body commitment action, primarily designed to be defensive. Seen some concerns about initial bursts of speed when you go into the slide and things like that. But obviously, our intention is to make this a slide that makes sense in the universe of the game, and that is what we are planning to do. And no details for 323, but obviously as we go on, more will be revealed.
Okay. What's your current stance or opinion on force reactions with regards to how it applies to gunfights?
So force reactions are always a very contentious point. We tone them down for 322, and at the moment we're looking at removing staggering off all weapons, all FPS weapons. So no weapons will no longer all weapons will no longer cause the player to stagger, but obviously we're still keeping flinching and things like that in. Grenades will still cause knockdowns and things like that, but basically making it more believable and as you'd expect, and less frustrating. Because we know staggers are a big pain point for people who do a lot of PvP and FPS.
Okay. I know at least 2 people will be happy with that. Shotguns. How will shotguns be made more relevant with the upcoming changes?
I don't want to talk for the again, but it is my area. So we are doing a big balance for 323, taking a lot of community feedback as you've been talking about like damage profiles and stuff. Shotguns are going to bring the pain. The game director is very fond of shotguns, so they will be coming in pretty powerful. But obviously, we don't want to make them busted, obviously. So this will include some things like tighter spreads to make them even more accurate at distances. I know a lot of people are very annoyed when they shoot somebody at a shotgun who's 20 meters away and they don't do anything. So that is not going to be the case. Shotguns haven't been viable for a very long time, and we don't want to make that the case. Some other improvements as well to pain points that we've seen. Railgun and grenade launcher in PvP scenarios on the ground will be becoming stronger, and the intention of that is so Salty Mike can actually win a gun rush game.
Okay. We got time for maybe 2 or 3 more. What are the major challenges you still need to address in 323 and beyond in order to bring the feel of FPS combat in Star Citizen from that of an alpha to a modern FPS experience?
Do you want to take this one, Nick?
I think you should all take this one.
Yeah, I think we've kind of already brushed on it, but I will just quickly say, obviously, we put so much work in our scopes, and obviously we've got such a wide range of armor sets, and having what Pascal mentioned, like having the armor sets completely block the vision, and then having to do that workaround, and then making sure that we've got to, especially when you make a game for PC, you've got to think about different FOVs, and you've got to think of different setups and how it will impact different players. And so I think that's something that we've is kind of been a bit of a pain point. But I think the change that we're doing now, and then eventually down the line, hopefully the change we make later on will really be so beneficial. So that would be my point, I think.
Okay.
So sorry again.
No, do it.
Just to add on that, there are some things. Obviously, the biggest one for me personally is sprinting and general movement and how that feels. So sprinting is a prime example of one of the improvements that we're planning to make. When you run, the gun goes below the camera. There's not too much head shake and things like that. So the overall feel of when you're sprinting, especially if you're on a planet, it doesn't ever feel like you're properly sprinting. And again, that ties into how much stamina that takes, because it's not too expensive or painful to sprint at the moment, and that plays into how much like weapon sway and things that you have. But yeah, some stuff I mentioned earlier, tracers, more obvious muzzle flashes, better improvements to how we do medical gameplay, just some other stats on the weapons we need, like sprint to fire is a big one. So at the moment, all the weapons use the same sprint to fire, which is a big reason why the P6LR was a very big offender in 322. And if you basically say, okay, cool, it actually takes you time to shift your LMG from the sprinting pose to the return pose, then LMGs are not as good in CQC, and we can make them slap incredibly hard over, those 40-meter ranges, because the LMG person's already prepped, already aiming at you, they will shred you. So it's stuff like that that stops us from getting, because LMGs at the moment feel like assault rifles with big mags, where everyone uses LMGs. It's examples of things that we're looking at to say, like, hey, this is how we improve our weapon sandbox, and overall get something that's, feeling like the weapon variety is very intentional, just like we're doing with armor.
And Pascal and Atil, I know that these are the designers, and they get to set a lot of direction. But as programmers, there's got to be some things that you want to get in there to really bring the experience out. What do you got?
Honestly, from my side, I have a lot of put a lot of focus in the clunkiness, and how the biggest point I always had was like that feels not really smooth firing in the weapon. And now that we worked on the recoil, that's the great thing of the procedure recoil, right? I did the tool, and Zach has to do all the work now, bringing in the recoil. So that's a nice benefit of being a programmer. I don't actually have to do the work. I just do a small bit, and then Zach suffers. But yeah, this was for me the biggest gripe about our game. The HUD also was always a little bit not too clear to me. We're improving that as well with 323. And for now, like we have all of these new improvements going in, and all of my biggest concerns have been answered or addressed, and I don't really know what I want to improve at this point in time. Obviously, when I play more, I will start picking up on the more minor annoyances and then want to improve that until they become a major annoyance for me eventually. But for now, I'm way more happier than 3.23 and don't really have anything that I
No.
must do.
It's good. How about you, Atto?
Well, I'm going to mirror Pascal here. So, yeah, for example, the combat HUD was a really good addition, like a really good improvement. Now we convey information way more accurately and a lot more useful information to the player. Like the difference, like for example, from time to time, we play Star Citizen like in the office, and I see the old UI, and like in my you know, uh, when I'm working on this new HUD, like the difference is like unimaginable, really, and it's gonna feel really different, and especially after what the guys were working on with the recoil and the new scopes, they also made a difference. So probably like this particular update made a lot of things like closer to our golden standard. So I will probably get a more concrete opinion on like how awesome we made the things after a few more play tests. But it's really, really promising.
All right, last question, because we're already a few minutes over. This is personal. You're speaking only for yourself. You can add one new weapon or gadget that doesn't currently exist in Star Citizen or Squadron 42. What is it?
Silence.
So, yeah, this is what
What a
this is what happens.
question.
Yeah. So the big
That's on
thing
the
I want
spot.
is a slug shotgun. Easily, it's my favorite weapon type in games. I absolutely love them. I also want
No,
incredibly
just
quick.
one. Just one.
Okay.
Slug shotgun?
Slug shotgun. That's what I'd take, hands down.
All right, Eto?
Probably a rocket launcher from one of the old school shooters. That feels really good to use.
Quake 3 rocket launcher?
A
I'm-
chainsaw. That would be great.
Who said chainsaw? Who said chainsaw?
Me, Pascal said chainsaw.
All right, that's
That
good.
would be great.
Nick?
Good choice.
Ah, man, what a question. I would love some sort of gameplay kind of weapon. Maybe you shoot a mini black hole and they all get sucked in the middle, and then something happens. I'd love that. Something really. out
Portal
there, sounds
gun,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a funny thing with Pascal's answer actually, because he says chainsaw. That's the most doomed thing. When we were making the procedural recoil, when Pascal was like testing it, he would always hit fire the weapons to say, "Hey, look how cool this looks," because he basically only plays boomer shooters. So we were in a
Boomer
where we were,
shooters, that's
aiming
very
at
funny.
recoil purely from a hit fire perspective, because obviously you can't ADS in a lot of boomer shooters.
you should see his test level.
it's E1 M1 from the original Doom.
No, it's not. It's legally distinct. It's legally distinct.
No, it's not for the public, but I just took the map layout to learn our editor, right? I have to learn it at one point, and I would just do E1 M1. I know how that looks, right?
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I asked the question. I'm a simple baseball bat man myself. I just want to chase people around with a bat. All right, that's it. Thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Star Citizen Live, based on the FPS improvements coming in Alpha 3.23. We're going to do another raid. Lenny, you can already start that raid. Looks like we're raiding Vater and Shonzaken. I know those guys. They're a father and son streamer team. So yeah, they're pretty cool. If you stick around, say hi to those folks. Just be nice. Wipe your feet. You don't have to stay there, but you can't stay here. If you haven't checked it out already, watch the character customizer episode of ISC that came out last week. There's just a lot of stuff a lot of people have been waiting for, and coming their way in at 3.23, and then come back next week for our cargo and persistent hangar episode of ISC. This week, that's the episode that that Will and Dave and Alex are over there trying not to eat their faces to get footage to show you because it's still early and it needs work. But so appreciate their work and I want to shout them out again. So yeah, for this show, that was Zach, that was Pascal, that was Atil, and that was Nick. I'm Jared. Thanks a lot for showing up. It's David on the keyboards. It's Pete, who looks like B-Rabbit in 8 Mile right now. I don't know when that happened. That happened sometime in the middle of the show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
Interesting show. Partway through it, I don't know where, but they announced that there might be a possibility for 2-man weapons. An EMP grenade. They keep asking about the night vision and stuff, and yeah, it's interesting. I would kill to see a decent, what do you call it? Stuff like that. I will admit the new character creator is also looking really good. Did someone say something? No. Okay. So my friends, how is everyone today? Hopefully well, I hope. Because it's been a while. I hope everyone's been doing well. I really am hoping we get some type of update on things. Yeah. Before I forget, there's a couple of things I want to show before I forget. Yeah. Where is it? Not here. On just a second. Crap. Well, crud. Where is window capture? There we go. Now, I don't know which of you guys have been here before, but yeah, I had some interesting stuff happen over the last couple of months. CIG has answered a couple of my questions regarding possibly the third system coming up. The first one, this question was posted in August of 2022. I posted this very interesting question. Gangs and syndicates in Nyx. Now, you may remember this post that I posted some time ago. A. Weisner from CIG posted this curious response. Uh-oh, oops. I don't know why that's not showing up. Is it not window? Okay, that's weird. Let's try this. It's not showing it. That's weird. Okay, there it is. Okay, there we go. Never mind. Got it. It says, we answered your question this installment of Lore Makers, which they did do. Question, I know Nyx is still a ways out, but do we have any preliminary thoughts on gangs and syndicate names out there? This was the first one. Answer, one of the interesting challenges when looking at this system is trying to figure out how to make it feel distinct from other lawless systems like Pyro. We're still working with design to figure out the exact number of gangs that will be needed in Nyx. But here's a sneak peek at what we've been talking about. The Moraine are an organization of thieves and smugglers based out of the Glacium Ring. Too aggressive to be welcomed into the ranks of the People's Alliance. The Moraine believe that it is their right to steal from the rich and powerful who have benefited from their widespread corruption. They use their profits from their criminal activity to finance their organization and create the life they feel they deserve. One of the 4 things that distinguish the Marine from other gangs is their fierce loyalty to each other, even at the expense of personal enrichment. The first tenet of the Marines' code is all for the family. In everything they do, the found family that the Marine gathered must come first. They never steal from each other and will treat the life well-being of a fellow gang member over any reward. Their commitment to family is so deep that the Marine even build and maintain settlements around the glacium ring. Some of these are used as dead drops in their smuggling endeavors, while others are safe havens for the families of the active members within the Marine. Though this can be viewed as a sign that the Marine are more sympathetic, others believe it's a way to keep tighter control on their members, as the potential traitor's family is easy within reach of the org and will pay the price on the traitor's behalf. That was the first posting. Yeah. The second one, which gives us even more information about Nyx, is this one. I posted this one about a few months ago. So here's this one. If I can get it. It's being uncooperative for some reason again. So yeah. These. Got it. And I wrote it, curious if the People's Alliance pretty much controls the entirety of Nyx, or if they are the major faction in play for that title. And they wrote, they did another Lore Makers community question, adding here. Answer, the People's Alliance in Nyx is a major faction for sure, but they mainly control the area around Delamar. This is mainly due to their available security resources, as it would be an expensive proposition to patrol the full system. While there are outposts and stations aligned with the People's Alliance peppered throughout Nyx, the further out you go, the more likely you are to run into several outlaw groups vying for territory in the system. We touched on one of those outlaw groups the last time I asked something. Yep, the Moraine, who are an organization of thieves and smugglers based down the Glacium Ring. This gives us a lot of the inner details and workings of Nyx, which is very interesting. Number one, the Moraine is a large organization that even that even though, the People's Alliance is a major faction in the area, they don't have the resources to fully patrol Nyx, which is sad, but you can, if you only have so much resources, you're going to patrol the areas that are most within your range of patrol. And two, the Moraine are another large power. So we have the People's Alliance and the Moraine are pretty much the large dominant powers we know of currently in Nyx. I'm pretty sure there are others, but the Moraine are based down in the Glacium Ring. So with that in mind, let me see here. Oh, that's right. I have to pull it up through here. We're going to go here real quick. Oh, nope. And then what am I looking for? The star map. I want the. What I want is the star map. And we're going to Nyx really quickly. Because, yeah, that's where we need to go. Okay. Stanton is here, Magnus here, Ellis here. Okay. Nyx. Here's Nyx. Subject to change, everyone. I will say that. Yes. This system is subject to change. The Glacium Ring is this region. So that means basically Delamar and okay. I forgot about this. Nyx, the Glacium Ring is this belt of asteroids right here. Delamar is the largest object in the Glacium Ring, kind of a dwarf planet. As such, the Moraine are here in this belt, though they probably control other areas of the system too. I would guarantee you there are frequent clashes between People's Alliance and the Moraine in this area. Given that the People's Alliance only has so much security, I would say this system is safer than Pyro, but not quite as safe as Stanton. Definitely once you leave the vicinity of Delamar's space, once you get out here in any of these L points, I don't know, this would be L1 and 2, this is probably 3 and 4. 3, 4, 5, you're going to be in deep trouble if you mess with the wrong people, because more than likely there'll be Moraine gang member controlled stations or factions. Now note, I am not a CIG employee. I am only a fan of the game. But it's easy to see that if the Moraine are in the Glacium Ring, which is right here, and the People's Alliance is right here, they're going to compete for resources, stations, and land. It's going to be territory, like any other faction in real life. When you have a conflict, you compete over territory. Nyx only has 4 planetary bodies. While we're on the subject, you have the primary star, which is this white-looking star, an F-type. You have Nyx 1, which I think they revised to be a coreless world that's been mined clean. But with the UGFs, or the distribution centers, this will probably likely have abandoned distribution centers likely on it, I would think. Nyx 2 is a smog world. This is like Aberdeen, or maybe what do you call it? Aberdeen or Venus, basically. It's a hot, high temperature atmosphere. I think they said you can land here, but I wouldn't expect much life on this planet. Now, they could turn this into a barely habitable, but, otherwise not habitable for humans planet, but still keep it like a hothouse planet. They could do that, and it'd still not be acceptable for humans, but, we'll see. Delamar, of course, is here. And I know a lot of people in chat, they cannot wait to go back to Levski. I miss Levski too. I miss this place so much. This was one of my favorite ports when I first started Star Citizen in late 2019. And yeah, I was bummed when it was removed, but I knew that there was a reason why. Oh, whoops. Go back. Sorry. Anyways, Nix 3 is the third planet. It's the blue ball of ice. It's got this look to it like Neptune, but I doubt it'll keep that look. It has no atmosphere or valuable minerals. I guarantee you, being a gas giant like Crusader or, Pyro 5, this planet might have several moons likely added to it. Maybe small ones, maybe airless, but maybe with some UGFs of some sort on them. But we'll see. Now here's the Keegar Belt. Now it said further out there are other games. Possibly what they're talking about is the Keegar Belt. The Keegar Belt is pretty much at the outer rim of the system. It's, I think I remember the old math, 8 AUs out here. I don't know if the metrics have changed much though. So the Pyro jump point drops us within range of Pyro 2, Nix 2. We're still going to be quite a good distance, it looks like, initially, from Delamar. It looks like there's going to be probably a space station right here. Probably the Okay, is this L3 or 5, chat? For stations. Probably L3, right. There's 4 and 5 are these stations. Yeah, probably. Who knows? Anywho, so if you follow the route, now before I jump out of this, a lot of people have been screaming about multiple systems coming in the game. Pyro and Nix, in my opinion, are the most likely after Stanton, though Magnus and Terra. Terra would not be a likely system immediately. This system will likely be after Nix or whatever else is thrown in with Nix. The fact we keep getting so many CDF missions, we might get Bremen. But I don't know how likely Bremen would be. Bremen is this system right here. It's also the home of Silas Kerner, the owner of Consolidated Outland. Bremen 1 is a protoplanet with no resources, so it's basically a big rock in space. Rheintiff, Bremen 2, this is the home of the Kerners, basically. Consolidated Outlands and Stalford. It's sparsely populated with a few settlements and mid-sized cities. And it's basically agrarian, which means it's seen a recent economic change, tech, and industry. So this planet's kind of like Corellia and Star Wars. Bremen 3, I think, is airless, maybe? Heavily mined, it's little of worth on this planet, but we'll see. And then finally, you have Bremen 4, which is a massive ice giant. It's an unsuitable world for gas collection. That's probably going to be a dangerous place to pick up gas. See, Bremen has a jump point to Nix, but we know that that's probably not likely going to happen here. Not immediately. If you look at the map, Nix is right here. Pyro is here, Stanton here. The next couple of systems, I've said for a long time, will be Stanton Pyro, Nyx, and because Squadron 42 is getting close, probably Odin in some form. Magnus is possibly another candidate. Bremen also. Any of the systems that kind of spawn off of Pyro are probably suspect to also be added to the game. And if you look at the Pyro jump points, there's quite a few of them. Kano is an interesting thought. You also have Terra again. Oso would be unlikely due to the fact that it has advanced AI needed. Kano is another oddball, but who knows? It all depends on the direction CIG wants to go with their systems. 1.0 was mentioned, and I don't think I can call it 1.0 if you're just going to throw out a game with multiple updates, but only 2 planetary systems. I think you're going to have several, which seems a lot more likely than just, we're going to throw it out with 1 or 2, in my opinion. Doesn't seem likely. Anywho, I don't see us getting anywhere near some of these systems because they are so complicated. Stanton being right here. This is our current home. This map is even out of date, but that's okay. Anywho, before I forget, if you're not up to date on the news, they brought out the Hornet Mark II C, which is a ship kind of in between, I would say, the F8 Lightning and the original Hornet series, mainly because, it's not as powerful as the F8 Lightning, but it's also not the same as the F8, F7A, or any of those ships. A lot of people don't see the need for it, but it is kind of odd that we're getting this ship so soon, because when you think about it, this guy is only, I believe they said in lore, maybe 100 years old. That's really unheard of for the military in Star Citizen, so something's up. And then we have the Operation Overdrive Initiative, which I would advise everyone listening to try to compete and get that done. It's worth your time to earn the F8A too, because that ship will probably be only allowed done a few more times, and then they're going to retire this event for good. Yeah. We'll see, though, because who knows? I've already gotten to 5 of 5. At least I think I am. But, yeah. It's just interesting. Anyways, folks, I am... Shoot. I hope everyone's having a great day. I'm gonna take a commercial break really quick. All right, back to what I was saying. I'm really excited about the future of Star Citizen. Really am. I'm trying very hard to ignore all the negative Nancy's because they're not, they're not worth it. Right? They're not worth my time, my effort, anything. And anyways, I need to get off here for right now. I'm probably going to be on later tonight to do some actual gaming. This was just a catch up middle of the day. So who am I going to raid? Who's up? Raid. Liminal. Let's do good old Subliminal. Subliminal hadn't been on in a long time. Give him some support. It would be appreciated. Have a great day, everyone. This is Zyron signing off.